Ciao a tutti, welcome back to Tricky Towers for week 23 Premier League predictions, served with, as always, a cold beer and my thoughts on the current events in the English Premier League. This is Offside and on tap. Welcome back everyone, I hope you're all doing very, very well. Personally, I'm done with January, I really am. Cold, wet, long nights and dreary days basically, I'm done with that. 57 days to go until meteorological springtime. Bring it on, the sweet smell of flowers in the air. Can't wait for it, other than perhaps the hay fever that I'll also get at the same time, but I'll sacrifice that, to be honest with you. You could be by then as well in spring, so still quite a few games before then. Hopefully Newcastle will be doing very, very well by then. This is Offside and on tap, so of course there is a beer, as I've said, and a little ciao a tutti at the start there. Basically means hello all, very simple. And the reason for that, I'm going for another Italian lager. One that I've not had though. I never had this before. Found it in Morrison's. It's called Menabrea. Look at that, lovely classic Italian looking bottle. 660 millilitres, 4.8% volume of alcohol. It's sort of likened to Peroni. Origins, it's Italy's oldest, Menabrea, Italy's oldest continuously brewing brewery. It's a mouthful, they've had a drink yet. And formed in 1846 in a town called Biella. So let's get it open. Let's see how it tastes. I wonder what you've all got. If you're watching, let us know what you're drinking alongside. We're gonna have a try this. Cheers, everyone. Yes, I can see the likeness to Peroni. Absolutely. So week 23, Menabrea is the beer of the week. So cheers again. Let's put that here. So, what happened in week 22 in the Premier League? Some big talking points. Starting with the Manchester derby. Where else would you start? Michael Carrick thrown in to the fire pit. First game in charge as interim manager. And it was pretty simple in the end, wasn't it? Tactic shift. Not just a tactic shift, but a personnel shift as well. Bringing people in the team. I did a little short, if any of you seen it, after the game. 4 points that I made. There's more than 4 points, but the 4 big points I felt that contributed to the result. 4 at the back, which, to be fair, Darren Fletcher had done. He reverted back to that for the 2 games he was in charge. But he brought Maguire back in, available, alongside Martinez. And Luke Shaw played at left back, with Dallo on the right. And yeah, it looks a lot better with that in there. The experience that you need in the back to win games, especially in a big game like that. Been on about it all season. Kobe Mainoo brought in central midfield, running the show. Lo and behold, has an absolute fantastic game. I think he got man of the match potentially as well. Bruno Fernandes pushed forward into the number 10 role, where he's most lethal, where he scores goals, where he sets up goals. Wow, fantastic move. Put him in his place where he wants to be. And the other thing, Brian Mbeumo, 20 goals in the Premier League last season for Brentford. He goes and scores in the game as a centre forward. Who would have thought? It's almost like Michael Carrick's done his homework, gone into the practical exam, and got an A just from doing that simple thing. And yes, fantastic for Man United. Easy win. On the flip side, Man City were awful as well though. I think it was the second lowest XG expected goals for Man City under Pep since he took the reins. So that's a big thing. So it never looked like really scoring. Never looked good at all. And Pep looks like he did earlier in the season, looking despair on his face, not knowing where to go. Obviously struggling with defensive issues, as a lot of teams are. Newcastle, one of them. And after they've had a little spell of solidity in Man City, they've gone back into the doldrums a little bit. So rumours going round that Pep might well go at the end of this season and not finish his contract to the end of the next season. That's a big possibility. I think that's whether they do win or not win. So we'll see how that one goes. Not long to find out. A couple of months left to go in the season. A few months to go. And then next, probably a little bit late to the part with this, but Oliver Glasner. outburst against the hierarchy. He's come out in the press. He's saying his squad feels completely abandoned by the hierarchy. I would say possible reference, obviously Gahey, Colby sold, I'd imagine sold against his will again. Did want to keep him for the season, but Crystal Palace decided to cash in. Man City, £20 million. Fully expect that to happen, to be honest. And now there's a potential possibility that talisman Mateta's leaving this month as well. There's interest from Juventus, a couple of other clubs in Europe, and also clubs in the Premier League. And now himself, Glasner, has confirmed he won't be staying on after the season. It's gone so bad for them since, to be fair, started this season well. They had that run where they continued for the last season, but it's just gone downhill extremely fast for Palace in the last few months. I think Oliver Glasner fancied an early finish to the season for himself. I think he's come out saying what he said and expecting to get sacked and getting a little bit of a payout before he gets a new club in the summer, because there are teams obviously touting about for managers, Man United being one of them. And it's not happened yet. I think if it was going to happen, the board would probably have done it by now, but results are poor for Palace, so it could still happen, and they might, if they've got someone ready to lined up ready to take over. Obviously they haven't, otherwise I think that would have happened by now. But we've seen this all season, managers coming out in the press, outing the board or having a crack at the board. We've seen it all season. Nuno at Forest was the first one very early in the season. He went. We've seen Maresca do it, Chelsea. He then gets gone. And Amorim at Man United again coming out. I'm not a coach. I'm a manager. All that nonsense. So and they've all cost. It's all cost them the job, whether they did want to or not. They've gone. See, they've all got a good payout, I'm sure. But it has damaged Glasner's reputation for me slightly. I don't think he really needs to go there. He's going to be out at the end of the season anyway, walking to another job, top job. So why do it? I don't understand that ultimately. But maybe he did want a little bit of an early finish. Gather his thoughts in mind for the next challenge in his career. Then results-wise in the Premier League again, other games. So coupon busting weekend, wasn't it? Top four. None of them actually won a game. Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, and obviously Aston Villa, none of them won. And some would say that Arsenal missed an opportunity there, but personally I think it's another game week ticked off. They'd actually extend their lead at the top to 7 points. So for me, Arsenal, they'll be very happy to be in this position. I think Lego head Arteta would have been snapping your hand off if you'd have said after 22, 23 games, 7 points ahead of Man City and Liverpool nowhere near that. So they've got to take the positives out of that Arsenal, despite what everyone was saying in the press. They've also got the squad 99% back available. I think there's only Calafiore of the senior players that's actually out for a little bit long term. And teams below, they can't string 2 wins together. And there's actually, stat here, none of the teams in the Premier League have actually got successive Premier League wins. So it's been tough. It's been really tough to predict, as you've seen in my predictions. Tough to predict games, and that's because this has been happening. Teams aren't consistent, even at the top. And Arsenal are certainly taking advantage of that at the moment. So fair play for that. And then I want to just talk a bit about relegation candidates as well. I think for me it's between 6 teams. Probably 2 of those, the bottom 2 teams, maybe really struggling. But I want to run through just quickly one by one each club that are in the position that they're in. Start with Wolves. So Wolves are 4 games unbeaten, but they've only won 1 of those games, 3 draws, and they're 14 points from safety currently. It's a big ask. It's a big ask with only 15 games to go. And it would be the biggest escape since Alcatraz, probably, if they did pull it off as well. So if they copy Bodo Glimt, after Bodo Glimt obviously beat Man City in Champions League a night or 2 ago, then and they beat Man City, I can see a little bit of momentum gathering again, but it's a big ask at the Etihad. I can't see it happening. So for me, Wolves, as I've said for a few weeks now, they're done, they're gone. Burnley, obviously 19th place, winless in 13 Premier League games. That is relegation form. And despite them they're clearly playing more attractive attacking football than under Sean Dyche when they're in the Premier League last. Then the last Premier League stay, the results have dried up now. Yes, a good couple of results, Man United and Liverpool in the last 2 games, but only draws, and draws won't keep them up. They're too far behind. For me, Burnley are also down. I'm then going to go back up the table a little bit here. I'm going to go to Bournemouth, who have dropped down recent weeks, having one win in 13 games. So, despite them having the third joint worst defensive record in the Premier League, they do score plenty, and they've got an outstanding player for me, Krupi, who is the new man now. Semenyo's been carted off, sold for big money. He's the one who's going to come in, and he's going to be the shining star, probably the next player that they'll ship out for big money as well, to keep them funded, basically, keep them in the money. Evan Nelson and Co still got holes in them as well, Cliverts of the world, and they'll fill the gap that Semenyo left for me. They'll be looking up the table, should be looking up the table, team with their strengths, despite not winning many recently, looking up the table rather than down. I think they'll stay up. I do think they'll stay up. Leeds United, lovely team to watch. They made a successful change to the shape of the team back in December, at the start of December. Led to 7 games in a row unbeaten. Went to 3-5-2. It's worked really well for them, and they stayed unbeaten until they met, of course, obviously a proper team, as in Newcastle, when we beat them at St James's Park, just about. Daniel Farke, keep them up? Yeah, I think he'll keep them up. And extend his stay at the helm, as well as Leeds' stay in the Premier League. So for me, Leeds will stay up, whether that's 17th or not. That'll be enough. That leaves the 2 teams in that bottom 6 that I've not mentioned, and Nottingham Forest and West Ham. So for me, it's a shootout between those 2 sides, and it's personal for Nuno. Obviously being sacked early in the season, Nottingham Forest, and he's trying to keep them bottom. He's going to get them trying to get them in the bottom 3, and pull West Ham out of the bottom 3. Forest struggled to score goals, really do. 21 goals in 22 games is obviously less than 1 a game, not good enough. But West Ham concede bundles and bundles of goals. So you've got one team that can't score, the other team that can't stop conceding. So it's a battle of worst defence, one of the worst defences and one of the worst attacks. But I think if West Ham can invest in the last week of the transfer window, in a centre back, in a holding midfielder, they've got the money there. They need to go and do it for me. They need to go and get some quality players in those positions. If they don't do that for me, then I think Nottingham Forest, they've got the 7-point advantage currently. I think that's will be enough. They'll win enough games, and Short Dyche will stop the Forest from burning down. I'm going to go for West Ham to go down. Now, that does sound pretty corny, crap, because I've gone for the bottom 3 as they are currently. But there's a gap there, and the bottom 3 teams for me have been the worst teams in the league so far. So I'm going to stick with the bottom 3 as it is. So that's my thoughts on the week 22 goings on and off the pitch. Week 22 points that I scored, 6 points. 6 points, as I said, it's been really tough to predict these results, and the professionals are struggling as well, never mind little amateur me in my living room. So 6 points, 4 correct results from the 10, just the 1 correct score. That was Leeds 1, Fulham 0 in week 22, so aiming to go higher again than week 6. So get straight into it. Let's go into week 23 predictions. Let's go for it. I'm going to whip through these pretty quick tonight just to get through them. I want to try and keep this video down to a minimum if I can, with what I've just been on about. So West Ham United versus Sunderland. West Ham are no clean sheets in 17 Premier League games that Nuno has been in charge for. So frightening stats, as I mentioned earlier. Poor defence. Sunderland, I fancy him to get a late equaliser to get a 17th point. 17 points it would be, where they've got from behind to get points, and that would be massive amount of points from losing positions. I'm going to go for 1-1 in the West Ham Sunderland game. Burnley at home to Tottenham Hotspur next. Burnley have lost 6 out of the last 7 Premier League games against Tottenham Hotspur. They did have an honourable draw at Anfield, battling back to get a point, which was really, again, it cost me on Tricky's treble, which we'll go into shortly, but it's another result they've got, but it's still not quite enough because they're losing so many other games against teams around them. So it's just not quite good enough. Bearing that in mind, Spurs, 67%, 2/3 of their points have come in the Premier League away from Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So they really enjoy travelling much more than they do being home in front of their own fans. Thomas Franke really is up against it. Got a good result in the Champions League against 10-man Borussia Dortmund, but it's the league where Tottenham have been poor for the last 18 months, and he really needs to steer that around. Otherwise, he could be another managerial casualty for them. So, but I do fancy Spurs to get a result here. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Tottenham Hotspur in that one. Fulham versus Brighton. Fulham have a really good home record against Brighton in the Premier League, 1-4, drawn 1. And Brighton, they have got a league high of avoiding defeat when they've been behind in games this season. 8 games where they've been behind and they've come back to avoid defeat, which is, it's good, but in a sense it's also bad because they're going behind and making things much harder for themselves, and that's why they've sort of dropped away from that top half of the table a little bit. So going to go with the form, the head-to-head form. Going to go for Fulham 1, Brighton 0. Man City at home to Wolves. Man City winless in 4 and drawn the last 2 home league games as well. It's a bit of do or die for Man City now. I fancy if they don't win and then Arsenal do pick up a win, then that starts to look a little bit too much work potentially, especially because City aren't quite consistent in performance and levels, and Haaland's gone off the boil and all the other things as well. He's only scored 1 in 8 games, and that was a penalty. But speaking of Haaland, 10 goals in 4 Premier League games against Wolves. He's actually scored 4 goals in a game against them, 3 goals in a game against them, 2 in a game against them, and 1. So is he going to get 5 in this? Or is he just going to get the 0 and fill the set that way? It's going to go one way or the other, 0 or 5. Wolves, recent rise in form, so 4 unbeaten as I mentioned in the league. Little too late, but they've got this talent Mane who's come into the team, 18 years of age, looks great, looks really good. The rest of the team are also playing a much better game, looks a little bit more organised defensively as well. But I think the run ends, and I think Man City will win 2-0 at the Etihad. Bournemouth versus Liverpool. Bournemouth shocking against Liverpool. 52 goals conceded in 17 meetings in the league. Absolutely poor. I mentioned Krupi before as the next star. Liverpool Champions League game, watched a little bit against Marseille, and they actually look better without Canate in the back. Unbelievably, the player they've been trying to re-sign, potentially still leaving the summer on a free, look better with Gomez and Van Dijk. And will they go with that again? Will they continue with that in the league? Very much so, I would have thought. Liverpool 112 out of 13 versus Bournemouth in the last 13 appearances. With that amount of goals average conceded, it can only go one way. I'm going to go for Liverpool to win 3-1 against Bournemouth. Brentford versus Nottingham Forest. Only the top 3 teams in the league have got more home points than Brentford. Brentford have always been good at home. Thiago scores goals, 16 Premier League goals. He's actually the Brazilian that's got the most Premier League goals in one season with that 16. Fantastic player. Scores from all over the pitch. He'll keep them going all the way through the season. Got to stay fit. But then will he move on at the end of the season? Because their strikers generally do, as we've seen in the last 2 seasons. Nottingham Forest, 11 different games in the league with no goals scored this season. So half the games they've not scored a goal in, and that's really been a struggle for them to getting the ball in the net. No Chris Wood. But Dyche does have a good record against Brentford with all clubs in the Premier League. 4 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss versus Brentford. So, but I fancy Brentford to keep that home strength going, and I'm going to go for Brentford to win 2-0. Another game with no goal for Forest. London derby, Crystal Palace at home to the Chelsea. Crystal Palace, this stat horrendous. Winless 16 games in the Premier League versus Chelsea. Last 16 Premier League meetings. And as I said earlier, it's a club on the decline. Losing the manager into the season, already lost the captain and the striker, top scorer's potential on his way out as well. I just don't understand this. So these teams are going to win a trophy at the end of last season, big trophy, FA Cup, and then it all goes to the pan. So strange. Steady start for Rosinho as manager of Chelsea. I think he's managed a game in every competition: League, Champions League, League Cup, and FA Cup. 3 of those games were victory. Only losing to Arsenal in the League Cup with a valiant display, only losing 3-2 in that game, still in the tie. I fancy Chelsea to do the job here, still placed well for the Champions League, and a win at Crystal Palace 3-1 will obviously help that, and they may come into the top 4 depending on other results as well. Then Newcastle United against Villa, St James's Park. Newcastle got a really, really good home record against Aston Villa. Unbeaten 17 in the last 17 meetings at St James's Park in the league, and 8 unbeaten at home in the league as well. 6 wins, 2 draws. Bit of Jekyll and Hyde though. Again, away form catching us out. It's like we almost cheat a little bit. Like we just put everything into home games and then we just take a foot off the gas away. Is that a fair comment? I think so. I see 2 different teams playing when it's at home and away. I'm sure Newcastle fans feel the same. It's that little bit down away from home. Hard to keep the levels up with so many competitions and games, but I think we cheat a little bit. I think we put all our eggs into the game and the basket at home, take a foot off the gas away. Just my feelings. Villa shock loss at home to Everton. They don't lose many at home. I haven't lost many at all recently or in the last 12 months. Caught me by surprise, especially when they hit the post, I think, within the first 20 seconds or whatever it was. Thought that was destined to go one way. Didn't end up scoring a goal. Everton pinched the game. So gives us hope in the FA Cup. We've drawn them away in the FA Cup in the 4th round, Newcastle. Going to go for the head-to-head form. Going to go for Newcastle to win 2-1 against Aston Villa. Arsenal against Man United. Despite strikers back in the team, no goal in the last 2 league games, but they did get 3 in Milan against Inter in the week. Fantastic result. Jesus bagging a couple there. Man United resurgence. Lots of energy back against Man City. Renewed hope. Bounce was better. I fancy this could be a bit of a scrappy game, and there could be a bit of loose defending from Arsenal if Man United do come out and try and poke the bear. So I'm going to go for Desmond in this game. Always go for Desmond. Picked it for this game. Going for 2-2. I think that does suit Man United better, having the draw, obviously. And then last but not least, Everton at home to Leeds United. Wonderful result, as I mentioned, against Villa. They're in 10th in the Premier League, Everton, and they'd probably take that now if they could. Stop the season now. Hit the 10th place, improvement on last season. Really safe for that. Leeds will pick up more wins in the league, just not too many away from home compared to at home. So I'm going to go for Everton to win 1-0 in the last game on Monday Night Football. Tricky's treble last week. Actually, the game that I thought the bet out of the 2 bets they had, the trebles, was the teams to win. All teams lost. So no win there. And it was only Sunderland in the draws treble that I had, winning against Crystal Palace, that blew the treble, and that would have been a nice amount. I'm only £131. Had Sunderland drawn because I got the Newcastle Wolves result in there, and also the Bournemouth v Brighton. So yeah, obviously knew before those other games that was the case, but unlucky we didn't get that money. So this week we're going to go for another £5 stake, full stake on 1 bet, and I'm going to go for, I've not written it down, that's horrendous. I can tell you who I've gone for. I've gone for Tottenham Hotspur to beat Burnley, Liverpool to beat Bournemouth, and Newcastle to beat Aston Villa. I remember that from doing that earlier. So that's Tottenham Hotspur, Liverpool and Newcastle all to win, £5 stake, £40.95 pence returns. And as ever, hopefully the bet comes in, and half of that would go to Dementia UK. The reason I'm doing these little podcasts in my living room, memory of Grandma Barb. That's it. Thanks for watching another episode with me and listening to my thoughts. Hope you've enjoyed it. Subscribe. Remember, it's free if you haven't already. Subscribe. I think the subscribe button will be somewhere around here with my face on it. Subscribe for free and make your predictions in the comments. 1 point for a correct result, 3 points for correct scoreline. And if you've enjoyed it, tell everyone about it. See if I can get more views on there. Still doing the shorts as well. Follow them. Cheers everyone. Have a great week. Hope your team does well and wins, unless you're playing Newcastle. Cheers everyone. Bye bye.